All right, I'm going to begin speaking while I can see that it looks like a number of our attendees are here. Hi, it's so nice to be here. My name's Jay Esposito. I am here on the admissions team at the Thomas R. Kline Drexel University School of Law. I just want to get started by very quickly talking about a couple of things that set us apart specifically. What is it about Drexel Kline Law that sets this school apart from a lot of our peers? And then I'm going to pass it over to our students. We have a really great panel here for you this evening of students who are going to talk to us about both our accelerated 2-year program and our 3-year summer start program. So again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. So very, very quickly, what sets Kline apart? I think first and foremost, we have a very strong emphasis on experiential learning. What does that mean? A lot of schools talk about experiential learning. We view it as taking what you're learning in the classroom, right, and being able to put that to use in your job, whether that's in a co-op, whether that's in an internship. We're going to talk about this a lot this evening. We're going to throw this to students so that you can hear from them. What does it mean for them to be getting experiential learning experience here at Kline? And what are they taking from the classroom and using in those co-ops, those clinics, things of that nature? So that's number one. Number two, I would say that we have a laser focus on your success. So Kline is a very, very small school. We have roughly 400 students. We're bringing in about 150 students each year, and that's between the summer and the fall. Right? So we have very small classes. You're getting a lot of personalized attention. Why does that matter? It means that you're getting individualized counseling from things like registering for courses, things like trying to find jobs, right? Being able to start planning your career at a very early stage in law school. It's a commitment to bar success. We have an amazing bar success program where you have folks all that have taken the bar that are here to help you practice and get through that bar. And it is across the country. It doesn't matter where you're planning to take that bar. They're going to help you to get through that. And as I mentioned before about careers, we have a really strong emphasis on jobs. So we're trying to think from the very beginning of your experience here as a 1L, where do you want to work? What part of the country? What type of law do you want to practice? Starting to have those conversations at a very early stage in your career. So all of those ways we are laser focused on your success. And number three, the last thing I'll say is that we have an exceptionally warm and collegial community. And I hope you're going to see that tonight. I feel very confident that you will. Our panelists are quite lovely. But I think even when you come to sit in on a class, when you reach out to talk to a faculty member, when you speak with myself and other folks from the admissions team and from other teams around the school, we believe very strongly that we want you to have a very warm and nurturing experience here at the law school. I think it's something that has been baked into the culture from the time that the school was opened. I hear frequently from alumni who many graduated a long, long time ago, telling me about the culture and the community the way it was then. And it's very similar to, or almost identical in terms of the way that students talk about it now. And that says to me that it's been very carefully cultivated over time. It's something that we take great pride in. And I really hope you'll get to experience this as a prospective student while you're looking at programs. So without further ado, I want to toss it over to our students so that they'll get to introduce themselves to you this evening. First, we'll start off with Maria. Maria, if you could introduce yourself, tell us what are your areas of specialization? Do you belong to any student organizations? And what program are you representing this evening?
Yes, so my name is Maria. I am a 3L and I am in the accelerated JD program. So I'm in the 2-year program. My concentration right now is crim law, and the organizations that I'm a part of are the SBA organization. So that's a student body organization, I think that's what it stands for, the student body organization. And then I'm also the secretary of the cryptocurrency and blockchain in the law organization.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria.
Yes.
Madison, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Yeah, great. I'm Madison Mueller. I'm in the same program as Maria, so we're both in the 2-year program. I'm a 3L. We're going to graduate in May. My specialty or area of concentration is business law. So I'm concentrating in that, and then I'm in the entrepreneurial law clinic to assist in that. And then for student organizations, I'm on law review.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. I want to just start off with some very basics, and we'll stay with you, Madison, if you want to take this first.
Yeah.
What was it that made you apply to the 2-year program? Can you tell us what is the 2-year program? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the 2-year program, you start this summer before you would typically start the 3-year program. So in the summer, you take a full semester of classes, and then you graduate the following 2 years from there in the May. So you just take advantage of your summer semesters so that you can go straight through. And I chose to do the 2-year program. So before I went to law school, I was in public accounting for 3 years, and I just felt like taking 3 years off from having a career was kind of like a long time for me. So that motivated me. And then while you still pay the same amount in tuition because you're getting the same amount of credits, it's 1 year less of living expenses, which made a big difference to me considering my budget. And I think that worked out really well for me.
That's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're going to throw it over to you, Maria. Tell us the same, if you don't mind. What was it that ultimately led you to select the 2-year program?
Sure. So I graduated undergrad in 2019. And right from there, I knew that I wanted to go to law school, but I needed money. So I started working for 2 years. So I took a 2-year gap year, and then I went back to I obviously went back to school. But in doing so, I realized that I kind of didn't want to be in school for 3 years. I kind of just wanted to get in and out. So when I saw Drexel had the 2-year program, it was really something that I wanted to do, because again, I wanted to get in and out, and I didn't want to have an extra year of living expenses like Madison had said. And it just really seemed like the best option for me. So I went for it, and luckily I'm here. So
that's wonderful. I think by far the first question, and the one that we get the most specifically about the 2-year program, has to do with the rigor and the speed. Do you want to take that, Maria? Could you tell us just what does that look like? What does it look like to do a JD program in 2 years?
So it's definitely a lot. The course load, so the max amount of credits that you can take are 17 credits. And sometimes you're going to have to take the max amount of credits. You're going to have to take 17 credits, which could be up to 5 classes a semester, which is pretty heavy, especially depending on the types of courses you decide to take. So if you do want to do the 2-year program, just know that it does take a lot of dedication, time management, and focus to get it done. It's very possible. And there's a lot of opportunity to do other things, such as outside of class opportunities that I'm sure we'll talk about later. But as long as you time manage and you keep in touch with your advisor and just keep planning, you can definitely get it done.
Wonderful. Thank you. Madison, same question.
Yeah, I was originally nervous that it was going to be overwhelming, but I really don't think it has been. I think I had one semester where I took 5 classes, but like Maria said, I met with my advisor, who's the dean of students, and he helped me strategize which classes to take and when to take them. So the faculty are very aware that you might be overwhelmed in certain semesters, so they definitely help you plan accordingly. So I guess you don't get the breaks over the summer that you would typically get in a 3-year program, but you're still working during those summer semesters or the summer internship. So it's not like you get a full break in general. So I think it worked out well for me just to go straight through. And I would say that it's generally manageable.
Wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate you both tackling that question. We have quite a few questions that are going to start coming in through the Q&A. I can see some popping up. So anybody out there on tonight's call, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw those into the Q&A so that we can pass those on to our student panelists. I want to quickly just take a moment and have our 5th and final panelists introduce themselves. Matthew Thomas is in our 3-year summer start program. How are you tonight, Matt? Can you hear me okay?
Hey, everyone. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry, I was having some technical difficulties.
No problem at all. I can hear you loud and clear. How's it going?
Everything's going well.
Good.
Like Jay introduced, I am a 3-year summer start. I'm just starting the fall semester after doing a semester during the summer, and I'm currently taking 3 classes in my 1L fall semester.
Wonderful. I'm going to stay with you for a moment, Matt, just to ask. So we heard from both Madison and Maria what it was that ultimately led them to select the 2-year advanced JD program. Matt, what was it about the summer start that appealed to you? Why did you choose to do the 3-year summer start over the 3-year fall start?
Right. So when I had learned about the 3-year summer start, I felt like it was a great opportunity for me to kind of get my foot in the door of law school and kind of help with that transition process. I had taken a break between undergrad and starting law school for about 2 years. So I was looking for an opportunity to kind of hit the ground with like running, I would say. And I feel like the Summer Start program definitely offered me that. It felt as if even though I was dealing with the difficulties of law school, it was a much smoother transition being able to only juggle 2 classes and have the full support of the law school as well during that process. And during that transition, it's not only that you get that help and support during the summer, but being able to also offload in the fall and spring semesters by only taking 3 classes as opposed to 4 classes. So I feel like the summer program really helped me to prepare for the fall semester. And during the summer, you're kind of able to make those general mistakes that anyone would make, especially when first going into grad school or into law school, in terms of just learning how to study, learning how to outline, learning what tools are specifically necessary to do well in law school. So I feel like the Summer Start program definitely helped me with that.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to stay with you for a moment, Matt, if you don't mind,
Sure,
because you touched on this very briefly, but the question that we then get the most, right? So when students hear about this Summer Start option, then they want to know, how is it going to impact their ultimate course load? And it sounds like you had mentioned it's going to lessen your course load throughout. Is that right?
Right. So that is correct. So during the summer, you start off with 2 classes. So 2 classes you'll be taking is legal methods and contracts. And during the fall, you'll be taking 3 classes. And during the spring, it'll be another 3 classes. And after the first year is when you'll typically just take the standard 4 classes as a regular law student. So it's just for that first year where you're able to take a lesser amount of classes.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to Madison to start us off with this one. So within the 2-year program, and we'll throw this to all 3 of you one by one, but within the 2-year program, does it then impact your ability to do the co-ops, clinics, pro bono hours? What does that look like, that experiential learning component, when you're doing the advanced JD program, the 2-year program?
Yeah, so I've done all 3. So I'm in a clinic right now for this semester. And then I do pro bono through our Marshall Brennan program. And then I do additional pro bono through our unemployment compensation stuff. And then for the co-op, so typically for the 2-year program, you do 3 semesters of classes, and then your 4th semester, which is like the summer before your last year, you do your co-op. That's just like the general path, which is kind of nice. It's like over the summer, and then you take a couple other classes. But if you wanted to do a co-op that only offered like a fall or spring, you can completely do that. You can just rearrange your schedule. There's enough summer classes offered that you can still fulfill your requirements of the 2-year program and then adjust where your co-op is. So that's like, once again, like if you have any concerns about that during your first week of school and orientation, you'll be meeting with our career services, and they'll ask you all of those questions and walk you through how you should be adjusting based on that.
That's great. Thank you so much. Maria, how about you? Do you want to tackle this one? Talk a little bit about co-ops, clinics, pro bono for you as a 2-year advanced JD?
Yeah, so I, like Madison, also did all 3. I did my co-op at the DA's office. So luckily, you need a certain amount of hours for your co-op, and you log those hours on a timesheet. And then since I was doing public interest, I was in the DA's office, I was able to transfer the remaining hours that I had for pro bono. So you need a 50-hour requirement in order to graduate. Everyone has to complete pro bono. And luckily my co-op and my pro bono, because I finished the hours that I needed for co-op, could translate to pro bono because it was within the public interest sphere. As for the clinic, I'm in the Federal Litigation and Appeals Clinic, and I saw that Joshua had a question about how we help students provide services to immigrants. And the way it works is we have a seminar class once a week, and then we get assigned cases. So there's a law firm, there's an organization, Highest, and they basically give us clients from them. So we work directly with clients who are seeking asylum, who want work authorization forms, all that kind of stuff. So we get real clients, and so you're paired with another person in your clinic. Typically there's 8 of us, so you have 2 people working per client. And you meet with the client weekly or however you see fit, and you help them with whatever they are in need for.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm going to quickly ask Matthew, and then we got a lot of great questions coming in. So please keep sending those in. We'll turn to those next. Matthew, if you want to talk a little bit about, from your perspective as a 3-year summer start student, how will that impact your ability to do co-ops, clinics, pro bono hours? Will you start them sooner than the traditional fall year students? Will you be on the same track as them?
Yeah, so being a summer start, my intention is to actually start them sooner. So I'm hoping to get started on pro bono during my spring semester, since I'll be taking only 3 classes as opposed to 4 classes, and feel like that could be advantageous just in terms of like timing, as well as being able to juggle both. So
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I really appreciate all 3 of you talking about your experience. It's really important, I think, for a lot of our attendees to hear. So we have a question. If I begin with the 2-year program, but I see that I get overwhelmed, could I switch to the 3-year program? The answer is yes. I would believe it's pretty small of a program, wouldn't you say, Madison, Maria? It's typically on average about 20 to 25 students that are starting off as 2-year advanced JD students each year. And as long as you let the Dean of Students know that you'd like to decelerate, as they refer to it, they typically are able to do that for you, so long as they know within your first few semesters. So you wouldn't want to wait, right, until you've gotten deeper into the program. You'd want to make that decision a little bit sooner. But as we said at the start of our call, given that it's a pretty small program, you're going to have that kind of personalized attention. So you'd be able to work with your advisors to see if it's smart for you to decelerate. I hope that answers your question. What else do we got here for 2-year summer?
Hey, Jay, can I actually
Yeah.
put to that?
Sure.
People also decelerate from the program for other reasons. It's not just like for being overwhelmed. Like, let's say if you want law review and you want to be on the exec board for law review, but because of the only 2-year time span that you have, you want to decelerate because you want that opportunity for your resume, or just because you love law review, you can decelerate for any reason. So it's not just because one might be overwhelmed. It really is for anything.
It's great. Thank you. And I'm seeing this one here. I know. So I had the pleasure of being on a prospective student event with Madison and Maria very recently, where we got a lot of these questions. And I know you heard this question quite a bit. How did either or both of you make your living arrangements in the 2-year program? This is coming from somebody who is not from the Philadelphia area. Is there some sort of a student housing that one might apply for, or what does that look like for folks that are coming in from outside Philadelphia?
I can speak to that, since I came from DC and I had been to Philly once when I visited the school, and it was like during the pandemic, so it was shut down. But so there's a Facebook group that you can join if you want to like find a roommate. But even within that, so in general, housing off campus is a lot cheaper than on campus, but we do have on campus options. So if you're interested in that, we can get you more information. But in general, off campus housing is what people do. So there's a Facebook group that you can find a roommate. And then I already had a roommate coming with me. So I just sent out like my apartment building and I was like, hi guys, is this like in a safe area? How does everyone feel about it? And everyone responded being like, you're going to be totally fine. Like the Drexel shuttle's right there. Like you're good. So that was nice for me to come into.
It's great. Thank you. I'm going to throw this one to Matt, and anybody can jump in here as well. But Matt, specifically starting in the summer, did you feel like you were then able to mingle with the quote unquote traditional students, the students that are starting in the fall? Do you feel closer to your summer start friends? Do you feel like the integration went smoothly when the new fall students start? What did that look like for you?
yeah, sure. So I feel like starting in the summer, our summer cohort definitely has a bond that's like no other, probably because we all started at the same time, and it's like a smaller group of students. Like I believe combined with the summer start and JD students, it was about around 30-ish, I would say, or around like 40 for the most part. So being with that small group of students definitely brought us closer together, just in terms of us just figuring it all out, and that transition process. And going into fall semester, everyone was actually really excited to meet everyone else, just because it feels like it's only that core group of people during the summer in the building. And then once everyone else comes, it's like, oh, there's a lot more people to meet. So it's always an exciting moment during that transition. And there's typically never any issues with that transition for anyone that I've heard so far. Typically, a lot of fall students, what I always hear is that they wish that they started in the summer as well, or they'll ask some of the summer starts for advice in terms of like how we may have outlined or what worked best for us while we took classes during the summer. So I feel like it all comes around full circle to everyone's benefit.
It's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to throw this over to Maria. Can you tell us a little bit, did you do anything around the trial team, moot court, working with any affinity organizations, law review? Are you able to do these things through the accelerated program? Is that something that's still available to you?
So I did not, I'm not a part of any of those teams. I am a secretary at the cryptocurrency and blockchain in the law organization. This semester, unfortunately, it's not so active. So I've really been able and fortunate to just focus all of my attention on my studies, on my classes, and on clinic. I will say clinic is, I want to say full-time job, but it is a job in and of itself. We have a lot of work with the clients. There's a lot of catching up, especially if you don't have any, background in immigration law or whatever law you choose to do with the clinic. And so it is something where you have to put in 14 to 20 hours a week. So it's a lot of work on top of classes, but again, with time management, it really is all about how you choose to focus your attention and your energy and how you choose to use your free time. So it definitely is possible to be a part of it. I know Madison might be able to speak to it because she's on law review a little bit better.
Yeah, so like Maria said, I'm on law review, and I joined just like after my 1.5 year. That's like the way the timing works. So the only caveat to the 2-year program is with these clubs that you can't be like a leader. So I can't be like the editor-in-chief of law review, because I will do my first year of law review during my 3L year. Which I think is totally fine. I've never had an issue in an interview that they're like, you don't have a leadership position in these things. They think it's great that you're even on the team, because it's a lot of time and it's a lot of effort and it's competitive to get on. I also think that with anything, that if you can't have the leadership, you just talk about how you're in a 2-year program doing law school in 2 years is like impressive by itself. So again, I think it's really how you sell yourself, and I really don't think that was a detriment to me.
I also quickly want to add, I see a question about part-time employment. I actually have been working part-time since the beginning of law school. I worked for an attorney before law school started in undergrad, and I continued working for him just because I needed some sort of income. And again, it is very manageable. It just, you have to express. And I think it was easier for me because my boss is a lawyer himself, so he went through the whole law school process. But I think if you just explain that, yes, you are a grad student and that you're, working to support yourself while also taking classes, they're very amenable to that.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm looking through, there's several admissions questions. I'm going to save some of those because I'm happy to get to those. I'm looking through to see.
I've been trying. I'm going to pop in here too. I'm Jacqueline Marsh. I'm the administrative specialist in the admissions office, and I've been trying to answer questions as they're coming up. I'm typing vigorously. So whatever we don't get to with Jay, Madison, Maria, and Math, answering live, I will absolutely make sure, if I don't get to answer all of them via the chat, that I will respond to everyone, with emails afterwards. But I just wanted to chime in that I am trying to answer what I can here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you come across any, Jacqueline, that are admissions related that we want to address for the whole group, absolutely. No.
Okay, great.
I have a ton of questions here. So the 2-year specifically, the 2-year program, are you able to do concentrations and specializations? What does that look like for the accelerated program?
I'll take that. I am a criminal law, and the only way it changes really is when you get to choose your classes for your 2L and your 3L years, you have to fulfill a certain amount of credits for under that type of law, right? So I have to take Crim Pro this semester. I'll have to take the second Crim Pro class next semester. And so that's really the only way it kind of dictates your schedule, but you can still choose which crim law classes you want to take under the umbrella of criminal law in order to concentrate. I know some other concentrations are more, I want to say rigorous or demanding in the amount of credits that you need to take, depending on what kind of law it is. So, but I can only really speak to crim law, but I did have to choose classes under that umbrella in order to satisfy the concentration.
Got it. Thank you. Madison?
And then I'm in the business concentration, and I've never had issues like choosing classes over other classes. Like my schedule has aligned with like the 3L schedule of like which classes to be taking and when, based when they're offered. So you can definitely concentrate, and you can also decide later if you want to concentrate. I don't think I've officially decided until my 3rd semester. So I wouldn't feel too rushed about it, but just plan ahead.
That's great. Thank you. And Matthew, I know, so you're only in now your 2nd semester, so you might not officially know exactly what type of law that you want to practice, but are you planning to specialize, do you think?
Yeah, I think I am interested in specializing probably in IP, intellectual property. But that is subject to change. Who knows what might happen within the near future.
It is indeed. And one student wrote in, one attendee, just wanted to ask generally of all of you, how do you decide what type of law that you wanted to do? Was there resources that you took advantage of? Was it taking a specific class, working with a specific office to try to pin that down? What does that look like?
I had known that I wanted to do crim law, I think, since the beginning. I think it was glorified through shows like Law and Order SVU and that kind of stuff. But in taking classes in crim law, I do recognize that I do love it. I also did my co-op, as I mentioned before, at the DA's office, and I was able to do firsthand preliminary hearings and see the fast-paced nature of criminal law and see if I liked it. I also, the attorney I worked for and I'm still working for now is a corporate litigator, and so I realized that I kind of hated fighting over money. So that was another way I found out what I didn't want to do.
Yeah, I think it's very normal to go back and forth and not really know. I think it's also very normal to graduate and still be very unsure. But I think that's like the point of it, right? Like you're interested in the law, you're interested in the classes you're taking. So take whatever classes like interest you. I don't think you're ever going to be like at a disadvantage because you didn't take a certain course. I also think with Drexel, it's really great that you do all the different experiential learnings. So like through my co-op, I realized I don't want to do employment law. Not very interested in that, but it did make me realize that I like a mid-sized law firm. So like that's helpful. So I think it's helpful to know what you don't want to do, even like knowing what you want to do. So I wouldn't be too stressed about it and know that everyone is in the same boat of being confused.
It's great advice. I hear that frequently from students, and I saw questions in there. What do I do if I'm torn? I think I like one, I think I like the other. Is there a way to change it? If I figure it out early enough? And the answer that I frequently hear is yes, that there's a lot of flexibility, right? We have a question about the bar, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, Madison or Maria, and if not, that's quite all right. How does bar reciprocity work in the 2-year program? Do I take a bar for each surrounding state that I may want to practice? And again, if that's one you're not sure of, you can let me know.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So my understanding is, so my one friend, Andrea, she's in the 2-year program with us. And so she is going to practice in Delaware, and Delaware kind of has their own bar. They don't follow the UBE necessarily. So she's going to do that. And then she's going to do that in July. And then the following February, she's going to take, I believe, the PA bar, just in case, like if, let's say she doesn't like the law firm and she wants to move to the PA bar or Pennsylvania, and she'll have taken the PA bar. For the UBE, it's my understanding that each state has a different, score that you need to reach for the bar. And so if, let's say, PA is a score of, let's do it easy on a scale of 1 to 80, PA needs you to pass at a 75. but New Jersey wants you to pass at an 80. If you take the PA bar and get 75, you won't be able to have reciprocity into New Jersey because you have not met their requirement for the score that you need. And that's my understanding of it. Again, we're just starting this process, so I'll let you know when I know more.
And just to add to that, I think all of that's accurate. My understanding, because I'm going to take the New Jersey bar because it's lower than PA, so it's like a better chance of passing, and then you can transfer into PA. But my understanding, especially with law firms around here, you're usually just in one, and then it like works, like everyone's fine with it, because typically you'll have another attorney on whatever document you're putting in. So if I was a New Jersey barred attorney, I would have someone from PA put their name on my docket and like help me with the procedural rules, and we'd be able to submit it. So like, in general, the whole area around here like understands that this is like, you can't be barred in 3 states. Like that's a lot, you know?
That's right.
And I also think sorry, Jay, I think with what
No, go
Madison
for it.
said, if she gets barred in New Jersey, because it has a lower requirement for you to pass, after I think it is 5 years, then you can get reciprocity into PA and you can apply without having to take the PA bar.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to throw this to all 3 of you. I think it's the question that we get most frequently from students that are thinking, should I apply for the 3-year fall program, 3-year summer start, 2-year advanced? We'll start with you, Matt. What advantages do you see of having chosen your program over the 3-year fall program? And if you could, are there any disadvantages that you can think of?
Well, off the top of my head, the advantages are the first to come to mind, taking a lower amount of classes, giving you more time to study for those classes and exams. Also kind of getting a head start in figuring out what study methods work best for you in terms of like retaining information and outlining, and just overall learning how to get started on legal writing, figuring out how to come up with an exam answer. I feel like were the most useful things about starting during the summer start. As for the disadvantages, I guess this depends on each person, but you won't have a summer, right? So you'll be starting classes in the summer. So having classes during the summer, I believe summer starts in May and it goes on to, about June or August, right? So for the most part, your summer will be gone. So if people wanted to travel or anything like that, that's something to keep in mind, because it's also a time commitment. So
That's a
being able
great
to
call.
cover that. Yeah.
We did I know of at least one student that had some pretty substantial summer plans, so it prevented them from starting in summer. So definitely something to consider before doing either the 2-year or 3-year, since both of those start in May. Madison, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, sure. So like I mentioned before, I think the money of the living cost is really important. And then you're starting a year earlier. So like that's a whole nother year of income that you'll have, which I think is important to note. I also really like that our class, like our cohort is really small. So I feel very comfortable with our whole group of 2Ls or our 2-year programs. And then you're also integrated in with the other classes. So you don't really feel like it's too small, but I do feel very comfortable at school. The only disadvantages are, I would say if you want to do big law, then you should think critically about the 2-year program, because the 2-year program goes straight through the summers. And typically big law likes to recruit where you like interview a year in advance for your second summer, and then you do like an summer associate with them. And then that's how you get hired into big law. So there's ways around it, and that's totally possible in the 2-year program. You just work with our career services early on, and that's totally fine. But I would just say, like, if you're thinking about that, then maybe like ask a couple more questions and make sure you're comfortable with the 2-year program.
That's great. Thank you. Maria?
I think everyone pretty much said what I was thinking. I was going to stress about the 2-year program. If you want to do big law, like Madison said, just really sit down and kind of think about what you want, ask questions about what, big law entails, what your life would be like post-grad, and that kind of stuff, and see if it aligns with what you want. I would say the benefits, I agree with Madison, because we have a small cohort that started in the summer with us. I wasn't going into grad school expecting to make friends because, you know, you hear just keep your head down and go. But I think I've made friends that I want to stay friends with after law school too. So I think that's the benefit of having a small class who's all suffering for 2 years straight together. But also you have people who understand what you're going through and are your support system. So I think there are benefits to it, and you kind of come up with friends. So I like that aspect too.
That's great. And question about what is big law? Can you tell us just briefly what does that mean?
I'll take that. I don't know too much about it because I'm personally not interested in it, but big law is like the big law firms, the big names that you hear. So you might know Morgan Lewis, Reed Smith, Blank Rome. They're all really big law firms. Typically, some are international, but most are national across the US. And they have offices in Philly. They have offices, you know, in major cities. And that's the extent to what I know. Personally, I know that they have typically the associate program that Madison was explaining, where you apply for the summer before you graduate, and then they hire from internally from within those classes that they hire. But I think maybe Madison can go into it more because I've never really been interested.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great summation. It's like the top, like big law firms where they have like big groups of associates. So like the idea is that like their salaries higher, they do certain types of training, they just have more resources as a big law. But I know I said that you can't really do it, or like you have to work around in the 2-year program, but one way we work around it is doing a clerkship after graduation. So if you go and like look at any partner on like a big law firm and like check it out, like you'll see like they clerked like right after graduation, like that will forever be on the resume. So the way we do it is that you clerk for a year, and then big law firms will hire you straight from clerkships, because then they don't really need to train you. So you're basically skipping the first year associate, and you go in as a second year associate. So definitely doable, and it's not going to put you back, but you have to strategize.
That's great. I got a good question. It's pretty basic, but it's really important. I think a lot of people want to know this, and it's something that we love to throw to students instead of us on the admissions team. How accessible are your professors, just in general? Are you able to meet with them after class? Matt, do you want to start us with that one? Do you work with any of your faculty members outside of the classroom?
Yeah, sure. I feel like one of the reasons that I was drawn towards Drexel was the small and tight-knit community that Drexel Law offers. So I've been able to connect with my professors for the most part. They know me on a first name basis, and their office hours are always open for anyone to stop by and speak with them. I always run into professors just walking down Market Street as well, and we'll always just catch up and talk about life. And they're always interested to know what I want to do afterwards and the ways that they could help me get to where I want to be, especially career-wise. So I feel like in terms of availability, the professors at Drexel have pretty much an open door policy. And I've never had any issues trying to schedule a meeting with them or just going to office hours to ask any academic questions or anything of that sort.
That's great. Thank you. Madison, Maria, any thoughts on faculty accessibility?
Yeah, I think the reason they're at Drexel is because they really want to be interacting with the students, and you can definitely feel that. Like we'll have teachers like begging us to come to office hours. They're like, no one came this Friday. Like, why didn't you guys come? Like, you need to be here. So I think they're very open, and they're like very willing to assist you.
That's great.
Yeah, I agree with Madison 100%, and with what Matthew said. I will also add that if you can't make it to their office hours, they're more than happy to meet with you outside of the office hours. If you just message them and say, this is when I'm free, it might be over Zoom, it might be in person, but either way, they're very, very accessible. I will also state that if you create like a solid relationship with a professor, I know my one friend, he's doing a private study with a professor that he is interested in the type of law that he's interested in. Sorry about that. So you do create these really deep relationships with professors, and there are also tons of opportunities outside of school and classes to get to know them. I know last night we had the Cocktails for a Cause, where we raised money for a charity, and then also had our professor serving us cocktails at a bar. So that's another way to get to know kind of just your professors and different staff around the school.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate hearing all of your insights on it. I'm going to throw this out there. Any attendees, we've We have no more questions that have come in that we haven't responded to at this time. So if you have any last minute questions, please let us know. I'll throw this to our panelists, and then we can wrap up. Panelists, what is one piece of advice that you wish that you knew when you were applying to law school? And we'll start with Madison. One piece of advice when you were applying to law school that you wish you knew.
I wish I had like calmed down. Like, I think I was such a ball of anxiety because it was happening during the pandemic, and like people were like, you know, you're concerned about rankings, you're concerned about your LSATs. Calm down. You're going to get into a great law school, and wherever you go is like really where you're meant to be, and you'll make a great opportunity out of it. And if you're interested in law, it's going to work out. Like, I wish I had like given myself a little more grace during the situation than I had.
It's good advice. Maria, thoughts?
I agree. I don't think deadlines always seem scary no matter which way you try to spin them. I agree with Madison that just, take your time. I would say to start writing a personal statement ahead of time. As simple and menial as it seems, it is something that everyone takes into consideration heavily. Just make sure, your voice is speaking through it. Don't try to say what we think you think what we want to hear. Just, be yourself, and that'll read through. But I will say start the personal statement early and, revise it as much as you can, and then just submit it when you think it's, the best version of yourself that you're putting forward.
Excellent, excellent advice. Matt, how about you? What do you think? If you were a few months from having started, right? So what do you think you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo Madison and Maria, like try not to stress too much about the process. Like you'll ultimately end up where you should be, and it'll be great. And save the stressing for once you're actually in school, and don't waste it on the law school admissions process. Like it'll be great and it'll turn out well.
That's great. And it's a great segue to, I just wanted to very, very quickly shout out a couple of next steps. First and foremost, we get a lot of questions about our deadlines. We have an upcoming deadline on the 15th of November. If you apply by the 15th of November, you're guaranteed a decision by the mid-January, which hopefully that means we're going to have decisions out by the 15th of January. That's our goal. But if you apply by the 15th of November, you will be guaranteed a decision in January. So that's our first deadline. And then we have deadlines that come after that are posted to our website. I would say the next big thing that you can do for yourself, take advantage of myself, of Jacqueline, of those of us that work on the admissions team at the Drexel Kline School of Law. We're here to help you. We want to be able to answer all of your questions. We want to be able to speak with you one-on-one about your application, about your competitiveness for the program. So any questions that you have about those things, you can email us at our admissions email address. You can call into the office, whatever way is easiest for you to get a hold of us. We're here to help you. Take advantage of that. We offer virtual information sessions most weeks of the year, and our students are the ones who host those. So Madison, Maria, they actually have virtual information session hours on the website. Those only go until the end of November, and then we pause everything for finals in December. So those will resume in about mid-January. Same with class visits. Class visits will resume in mid-January, and those run all the way through April. And last but not least, apply. If you're not sure, if you think that you would love to hit that November 15th deadline, but you need some additional time, we can always be flexible. We would much rather see your application be submitted as strong as it can be, right? Rather than try to rush it to get it in within the next couple of days. So if you really think you would like to aim for that November 15th deadline, but you need some additional time, please let us know. We are more than happy to work with you to give you some additional time to get that application in.